This is Chapter 16, Lesson 1, Land and Water of Latin America. As I told you at the very beginning, there are regions of Latin America, and these regions overlap a little bit. So Latin America is from the border of the United States and Mexico through Central America, including the Caribbean islands, all the way down to the tip of South America. So Latin America is a large region that is united by language and by culture. So Latin America refers to the land from Mexico to the tip of South America. Essentially, Central America is from Belize to Panama, and Middle America is basically Mexico to Panama, which includes Central America. So it's an overlapping region. Remember, everything under this heading applies to this. So what this is really asking you is, what are the regions? So the regions are Central America. You could highlight that or you could underline it. Middle America is another region. The Caribbean and South America. So there are 4 different regions, 2 of which overlap. So when you're studying and you want to be able to name the regions of Latin America, you need to be able to name these 4 regions and explain where they are. So there are 2 main headings, landforms and waterways. Landforms we already discussed are arranged by location. So this entire letter, all of this information is about the location. And throughout Mexico and Central America, which is Middle America, mountains dominate. They are the dominating landform. And these mountains extend from the US all the way to South America. In Middle America, when you look at an atlas, you should find that these are the Sierra Madre Occidental, Sierra Madre Oriental, and Sierra Madre del Sur. Occidental, Oriental, and Sur are all directions. So if you come and you were to look at a map of Central America, here the Sierra Madre Occidental, that means west. The Sierra Madre Oriental, which means east. And then down here in the south, Sierra Madre del Sur meaning of the south. The next part of the book, while we're here, we'll look at it. It's going to talk about the Central Plateau. This is the Central Plateau. So you have coastal plains along the coast, narrow coastal plains. You have these mountains, which really are a continuation of the Rocky Mountains into Central America. And then in the middle is a high plateau. And remember, I talked yesterday about how the temperature here is more favorable. So even though they're pretty far south, in fact, 15 degrees north right here, 25 degrees north here. So back on your outline, Mexico's Central Plateau lies between 2 mountain ranges. For a definition, the plateau, a large raised area of mostly level. And most of Mexico's people do live on that Central Plateau. One thing to be careful about, it's brown because of elevation. It is not brown because it is desert. And so you see the lower elevations in through here. You know, it's a higher elevation. Sometimes it is desert, especially up here. This is the Sonoma Desert, but does not mean that it's desert. So this area is in fact not desert. In general travel, transportation has been difficult throughout history because of those mountains, and coastal plains line the east and west coast of Mexico, which I already showed you. Central America, you need to know, is located south of Mexico and north of South America. It's literally central, right? So here's Mexico. You come down here, here's the border for Mexico. So south of that, here's Panama, and here's South America, north of that. So this region in the center. An isthmus is a narrow strip of land that joins two larger land masses. For Central America in general could be considered an isthmus, but here you'll see it says the Isthmus of Panama. I can't quite get it on screen, but in the Isthmus of Panama. So this narrow piece of land here that joins these larger land masses. Narrow coastal plains also line Central America, and within the rugged mountains there are several volcanoes. This whole area is on the Ring of Fire. If we were to look at Google Earth, and it's really hard to see in the Pacific, especially now that they have these clouds on here. But here's Australia, here's up the coast of Asia, and then you come down the coast of North America, down the coast of South America, and that's the Pacific Plate. And all through here, there you can see the cracks here. That's the Pacific Plate, and that's called the Ring of Fire, all the way around the Pacific Ocean. And there are many active volcanoes in that region. So there are two types of islands in the Caribbean. So here's your second region. You have coral islands, and the coral islands are basically the skeletons of tiny sea animals. These sea animals, these skeletons have basically melted together to make rock, and over hundreds of years they have formed reefs and islands where dirt collected. An example would be the Bahamas. So the Bahamas off the coast of Florida are an example of this. Some of these are the tops of underwater mountains. Sometimes we think mountains are only on land. That's not true. They're all over the world, and some of these are still active volcanoes. And I should have pulled this up earlier, but a great example is the island of Montserrat. And Montserrat, when you look at that, I probably could have found it in Google Earth. Part of it is an active volcano. There's an actual down here. So here's the active volcano. And over time, what has happened is that volcano has continued to erupt. And the southern part of the island is essentially uninhabitable. And you can see now where the pyroclastic flow, I guess, the lava flow has been. You can see the continued eruption here from the satellite photo. And all of this area that used to be inhabited can no longer be inhabited. People have had to move to the northern part of the island. And it is not a large island. To put it in perspective, like here's Puerto Rico, and Montserrat, you can no longer, it's under the S right here. Your last region then is the Andes Mountains, or I'm sorry, is South America. And probably the most dominant landform is the Andes Mountains. They are 5,500 miles long. They are located along the western coast. And in places, they are more than 20,000 feet tall. These are the second tallest mountains in the world. The tallest would be the Himalayas in Asia. And if we look at Google Earth, Obviously, you can see the Andes Mountains, 5,500 miles long. In the taller ones, even though they're near the equator, you can see the snow, the ice cap, because as you gain elevation, the temperature drops. So for every 1,000 feet, roughly, that you go up, you lose about 3.5 degrees. So when you're 20,000 feet in the air, you've lost over 70 degrees. So those are the Andes Mountains. They're right there along the western coast of South America. Another region would be the highlands, so particularly the Brazilian highlands, and these spread across Brazil, Venezuela, and Guyana. The Pampas is an area of rolling grassland in Argentina and Uruguay. It's very similar to the Great Plains. I don't really need to define it. It's essentially defined right there. So the Amazon River and Basin, the Eastern Highlands and the Andes surround the Amazon River. What does the term basin mean? That is a low-lying area. So if you think about a sink basin. And then rainforest, the definition is a dense evergreen forest that has abundant rainfall through the year. The Amazon River you can easily see. And again, all those tributaries, there are so many tributaries that feed the Amazon River. The highlands is this area over through here and up here. The Pampas is this area in southern Argentina and Uruguay, and this is where they raise most of their cattle. Rivers serve as natural highways for transportation. Rivers provide both transportation and food for the people that live in these areas. The Amazon River is the second longest river in the world at 4,000 miles. It's second to the Nile in Africa. And it flows from the Andes Mountains, well, your book says Peru, but basically the Andes, to the Atlantic Ocean. And it has more than 1,000 tributaries. And those tributaries are smaller streams and rivers that feed larger river. To wrap this up, you have a couple other rivers. The Parana, the Paraguay, and the Uruguay form the Rio de la Plata, which is the river of silver, and that separates Argentina and Uruguay. You have the Orinoco River and Lake Maracaibo that provide transportation routes in Venezuela. And then in the Andes Mountains, you have Lake Titicaca, which is the world's highest navigable lake. And if we take a look really quick, here's the lake, way up here in the mountains. So it's a low-lying area, relatively speaking, to the area around it. Lake Maracaibo up here in Venezuela is easy to find because it's this little inlet right here. That's Lake Maracaibo, fed by the Orinoco River. And then the Rio de la Plata, also easy to find. You come right down here to Uruguay and Argentina, and it feeds right through here.